Welcome back. This is the Xvive M5 wireless microphone system. The folks at Xvive have sent this over to me and thought it might be interesting to many of you on this channel. Now in the past, we have also looked at Xvive, and I also talked to these folks at NAMM, and I talked about that in a more recent video, or an earlier video this year, where we went over the Xvive U35 system, where you can basically make any kind of microphone wireless. And we also compared it to another product in another video. So this is about the third video where we've covered one of the products from this company. They have wireless solutions for all kinds of things. They've really become a pretty big force in the industry in this segment over about the last decade. So right now I'm going to take this out of the box. This is a very simple to use system. It is actually wireless based on a 5.8 gigahertz frequency, similar to what we saw with the U35. And it is designed to be plug and play, where you could get this thing up and running very, very quickly with automatic channel selection. And like the other product that we looked at, also supports 6 wireless channels. Because it's digital in the way that it works, it has a little bit of latency, which is 5 milliseconds. And I did measure that using the similar technology in the U35 in the previous video. But look at this, it comes in a really nice case. I have not looked at this before. It's the first time that I'm seeing this. Excellent, excellent case. Not just a simple pouch. We've got the microphone here. I can see that the capsule part of the mic has, I would say, an SM58 look to it, but bigger possibly. And it's got the mesh with a nice kind of red tint to it. It actually looks really good. This is a very nice, solid feeling microphone. It does have the Xvive logo on here, but not, not annoyingly so like you see on some microphones. I see that we've got a mute switch here, so we can mute it with this switch. And then one of the tricks of this is you can actually remove the capsule, and then you could screw on the capsule or the head portion of an SM58 with this microphone, and then use that instead. If you don't want to use this capsule, you have a certain one that you'd like to use, you can use that. Now I'm going to just set this aside here and just see what we have in this kit here. We have a dual USB charging cable. This is something I'm getting used to with these kinds of products, that when you charge them, you need to charge the receiver and the microphone. You can see this Y cable is USB-C and USB-C, and then it's USB-A on the other end of it. So I will check that, see if we need to charge that up. And it's, I guess, a little bit kind of like my style to just immediately take it apart before you've even charged it or tested it or anything. But anyway, I like to see what these things look like on the inside. All right, so this is pretty obvious. Let's look at what we've got for controls here. On the bottom part of this, we have a switch. This appears to be the power switch. And then we have a button here, which appears to be a channel selection button. I believe this thing does auto channel selection. It does appear that it's got a charge. And then on this piece of it, well, we have this kind of adapter, so I guess we could plug this right into essentially an unbalanced connection, or the typical connection to plug this XLR right into your mixer. So there's a simple slide power switch, and then also we have the channel button here. So with that, we'll go ahead and hook this up. I'll work with it a little bit and get some experience with it, and then I'll be back to tell you my impression of the mic, and also to give you a sound example as well. All right, now since I took it out of the box, I've had the chance to work with the M5 a little bit more, and so I understand the way the setup works, and for the most part, this is very straightforward. For most applications, you're gonna plug this into your mixer or your speaker or your sound system, and then turn this on. This is the receiver section of it, and you can see that it's on blue. Now there's 2 blues that you'll see here in the manual, a darker blue and a cyan blue, which is more almost like a teal color on here. You could get to that, but that's a fixed channel. This blue channel is the automatic channel, And for the most part, you're going to want to use that because you could use up to 5 of these systems, put them in automatic, they'll find the right channel to communicate with, and there's really nothing more you need to do. You turn it on with this switch and you turn the mic on with that little slider there, and you can see that it's on the same blue channel. It looks almost purple on here. And then this green indicator, that indicates power. But at this point, we have it connected between the channel. And that is all you need to do. So that's really, really cool. Now, if you wanted to set it to fixed frequencies, then you can get this thing into a mode where you do a single tap, a single short tap, and you could see that this, and it works the same on the microphone, will switch between these different colors. So this is channel 2, tap it again, and I get to green. Here is the white channel, the cyan channel, and the pink channel. So there's 6 of those. Now you can use those 6 channels separately from those automatic channels, giving you a wide variety of, you could use a lot of these mics if you really like this system. But seems like you got to hold it a little bit to get it back. But you want it on this channel. This is how it's set up right out of the box. And that's all you need to do to get going. I did mention that you can screw the top of the microphone off and replace it with capsules from other brands of systems, including the Shure products, but you will need the capsule. The only ones that do this are the wireless products. So you can't take an inexpensive SM58 and do this because it's hardwired on there. This only works if you're interchanging it with the wireless products. Now, one thing I have noticed about this, and there is one more cool thing about these I'm going to tell you in a minute, but about the accessories that come with it. Obviously, it comes with a charging cable and a nice case. It comes with this. I think this comes in handy. Of course, I've got several of these anyway in my kit, but this is handy if you're connecting into something that's a little more like a karaoke system, or I have a floor monitor that's really for a roll-in V drum. I often use it as a monitor for vocals in many situations. Well, it doesn't have an XLR input, so then you need to set it up like this anyway. And this is great that that's part of the kit, and there is even, space for it, in here in the case. So you have everything you need there, but you don't have everything you need. I would have traded this off for a mic clip. This doesn't come with a mic clip. I wish it did. It's kind of presumed you're going to use it as a handheld mic, and if you use a mic clip, you need the the bigger ones that are used with these kinds of wireless handheld mic, or the kind of clothespin clip will also work on this. I really like that it doesn't roll around because it's got this hex pattern on here. I don't like that it has a manual mute button on there. I do if I'm using it myself. If I hand it to somebody else, I don't like those. You'll have to tape that up if you're running sound, because your talent or your speaker, they're going to turn that thing off and not know why it's not off or not on. I don't really like them messing with that if I'm running sound, but that's my personal preference. If I'm using it myself, I do like to have that switch. Now, there's one thing really cool about this. In the fixed frequency mode, you can send one mic to multiple of these receivers. And there is a little explanation for that in the manual. Because, why would you do that? Well, you would do that for this scenario here. You have a microphone, you have 2 speakers on stands. If you plug one of these, say you have 2 of these systems, you can plug one of these in over here and one over here, and then you will need to move it to a fixed setup mode. So once you get it here, say you go to that, let's go to the yellow mode, and then on the microphone, basically you do the same thing and get the microphone on the yellow mode. And as long as you put both of the receivers in this yellow mode, they'll both receive from the same microphone. It's one microphone to multiple receivers. So that allows you the ability to go into a single channel, use a single channel microphone, and go to multiple destinations with it. So that is actually quite a good feature. Now, in the sound tests, which I will do next, and you'll hear them next, I found this mic to be a little bit brighter than an SM58 or an SM57. Those mics have a slightly warmer sound, so it's got a little bit more top end on it. I wouldn't say that's bad. It actually, in a way, it sounds a little more modern. And well, you could just listen to the comparison. If you wanted to sound more exactly like a traditional Shure, you need to slightly roll off the high end with a tiny bit of a shelving roll off. I didn't feel like I needed to do that. I actually like the way that it sounds. But of course, these are very subjective, but it doesn't sound exactly like what I would say that you would hear from an SM58. Anyway, we will continue on with the sound tests, and I'll test it against a few other mics, and you can hear for yourself. At least you can hear it with my voice. All right, this is a sound test of the Xvive M5 microphone. I'm talking to it at about maybe 6 inches from the end of the microphone. I have it on a stand on my desk, and it is wirelessly connected to the Zoom LiveTrak L12next mixer that we've talked about a lot on this channel. And this is to give it a comparison, and we're going to compare it to another mic right now. Now this microphone is a Shure SM57. I've got it in the same location. I'm speaking about the same distance from it. Now obviously this is a hardwired dynamic microphone, but it's always a good test to test against this. I do have a windscreen on it, so it's set up for handheld vocal mic configuration. And then we're going to go on and test against probably the most famous podcast mic, and we'll do that right now. And now this microphone is the Shure SM7b, and I'll give you a comparison with this microphone, and after this we'll go back to the Xvive M5 microphone, and that way you'll be able to get a comparison to that microphone head to head. And now we're talking into the Xvive M5 microphone. It's running into a channel on the Zoom L12next mixer. It is running wirelessly from my desktop over to that mixer, and I think it should give you a pretty good comparison with these two other common microphones. And I'm going to give you another example where I'm speaking to the microphone at a much closer distance, maybe 2 to 3 inches off the microphone, speaking slightly past it like I would if I was in a public speaking situation, or if maybe you're in a singing situation, so you could get an idea of how it sounds at a much closer range. All right, so what do I think about this system? Well, I do have to say that this was sent to me for free by Xvive, and so I think I typically am, while I'm not biased, I'm telling you the truth. I appreciate when companies send me things and to review and take a look at their new and their kind of new ways of packaging these ideas. And so I tend to be positive about it, but I actually really do like this set quite a bit. And compared to some of the other things, I'm going to go through each of these pieces here and just say what I like and what I don't like. This I really like. The way the receiver looks, the way it works, the battery life, all have turned out to be really positive. I guess if I turn this around, clearly labeled, nice slide switch on here, very easy to use, and it's slim. So I didn't have problems connecting this to some of these compact mixers that I use. And compared to the Xvive U35 system, which I also really liked, but you could see that this is a little fatter and it's a little tighter on some of those smaller units like the very compact Zooms and things like that where the XLRs are close together. It gets a little tight in there, but this is nice and slim in that dimension. And not that this is bad, but this is better. I like this form factor a little better. This is shorter, you can see, but it's a little fatter, making the connection a little harder. You might need to put this on the end of a cable. Now that's another thing. You do need essentially line of sight. You're going to get about 100 feet of range off of it, and if that is going to be a problem for you, or if your mixer's back in a rack or a road case, you're probably going to want to put this on the end of a mic cable and then move it out closer to the point of use, or even put it up on a stand up above the crowd if you're having problems with it. Anyway, you could easily extend this and get it line of sight by putting it on the end of a mic cable. Same thing with this. That's what I have to say about that. You can see this is a little bit scratched, and that's because I had connected this to an SM7 and SM7b on a stand, and it was so tight it would barely fit in there. Now it probably looks a little better, but this doesn't have that problem because it's a little bit more slim. Of course, if it's on there, you know, it's going to be it's a little bit longer. So if that's a problem, that's just something to be aware of. Now the microphone itself, I love the fact that it doesn't roll. I love the fact that you can interchange the head unit of this with that of other mics. Now, if you're a professional and you have a kit and you have a lot of these other mics around, that's great because you can use this system easily and then adapt it to whatever your singer likes. The thing is that those replacement heads are very expensive. And so, you know, they're a few $100s to get, you know, a Shure replacement head or a Sennheiser. And so you may or may not want to do that. I personally will just use it like this as it is. It's got a nice quality feel for it. The branding's not overdone. I like the red underneath it, and just generally a nice all-around unit. And it's been fun to use. It's on a very nice shock mount up here. Handling noise, I would say, is comparable or actually quite good for a mic in this price range and for this application. I think it does a good job with rejecting the handling noise. Now the case is first rate. This is actually a really nice case, and you've got room for everything. It's a nice rigid kind of semi-hard shell case. I think they've done a great job here. There's compartments for everything, and they've added these Velcro tie downs, so it's not like you just zip it closed, but it actually can go in here. All these components can go in here quite firmly. I think it's something that you could use regularly if you're running sound. I've had a lot of fun using it around the studio. And that is the Xvive M5 wireless microphone system. If you like this kind of reviews, consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for another video that you might be interested in right here.